Well, congratulations. You've managed to infiltrate that little group. I mean, trying to kill and assimilate the guise of one of the others may have been a bit tricky. The vampire would have fought back. The Githyanki and the demon would have been too challenging in your current state. Even the cleric or the wizard would have proved difficult, but the bard showing up when she did, unprepared and, well, underpowered, was a perfect opportunity to strike. Unfortunately, though, your work was sloppy. You nearly got caught. In fact, you mangled up her outfit so badly, wrapping her mutilated corpse up in it, that it wasn't even worth trying to wear it. It's clear that with that tadpole in your head, you're having a bit of trouble maintaining your wits and making sure your kills are clean, but no matter. I am here to be your mentor, to show you how to maintain this little disguise, at least long enough so we can get this wretched invader out of your head, and you can go back to satisfying your dark urge. Well, enough of that. Alright, I am back with another video, and that little primer you saw was basically kind of my lore justification for this Dark Urge build. A lot of people have requested that I make a build that is what people would consider the ultimate Dark Urge, or something that's tailor-made for this campaign, and while I don't necessarily think this would be the canon way of doing it, I think it's a very, very interesting take that can easily fit the mold of the campaign. Now, as per the little intro, that yes, this will contain spoilers for the Dark Urge playthrough, so if you're... but not anything major story-wise, basically just some mechanics that are related to it, but, you know, if you don't want to see spoilers, leave the video behind. Also, my kind of inspiration for this build was kind of like John Carpenter's The Thing, that you are some unknowing creature that has disguised itself as a member of the party and have infiltrated them with the intent on doing nefarious things. And the way I would play this character is, yes, you kind of play what maybe an Alfira character build would be, but then on the off chance you get a moment to sneak away and do some evil things, then you would. For example, things that would advance the Dark Urge campaign through the evil playthrough, but you wouldn't just be flat out blatantly evil, you would do it in secret using the various skills a bard would have, such as persuasion and deception, to be able to get through without people even knowing it was you. Now, this build is going to be a bit strange stat-wise, however, I do feel like my kind of justifications for it will make sense, but feel free to change things up as you like. Again, maybe not the strongest build I've ever made, but I do think this one is going to work out really, really cool in the long run, especially if you play into this idea that you have killed Alfira, taken on a disguise that looks like her, and are now trying to keep up appearances while also satisfying the Dark Urge and serving, well, you know who. So let's get into the build. Obviously, we are going to play as a bard, and there's a few reasons for this. I mean, I considered going for, like, getting the musical instrument proficiency from Alfira herself in order to be able to play maybe a assassin rogue or a Great Old One warlock. However, I actually decided that, well, bards on their own can be freaking terrifying when you actually look at it in context. They can be incredibly strong and have some truly kind of messed up abilities when it comes to messing with people's minds, so it felt actually extremely appropriate to go with this. But if we're also looking at this as the Dark Urge build, then if we're kind of treating this as an origin character, it makes sense to focus on a class that isn't already taken up by one of our already existing origin characters or party members. I believe it's Bard and Sorcerer that aren't taken up, as well as Monk, so we have options for those three if we want to kind of go with this origin character route, and Bard seems like the most obvious choice for a build like this, so that is what I'm going to be building today. However, while this is mainly going to be a straight Bard, I will be kind of showing off my lore justifications for this type of thing as we go. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. It's slightly more experimental, but I had some extra time off from work, so I was able to put a little bit more juice into this one, so I hope you will enjoy. Starting off with our cantrips, this feels fairly obvious. There's no reason not to use Vicious Mockery here, although I think in this case it's less like, you know, you're just taunting the enemy and making fun of them. I feel like it's actually you are really insulting them down to their core, maybe letting out a little bit of your true power as this kind of disguised Dark Urge creature, and maybe your enemy is actually getting a lick of fear about them rather than just annoyance. Also, we're obviously taking the Friend's cantrip. It makes so much sense for a build like this. You need to persuade and deceive your way through pretty much all situations if you're playing a secret Dark Urge, so this is one of the best cantrips you can get by far. Next up for our spells, I feel like these ones are fairly obvious, but I'll run through them quickly anyway. Dissonant Whispers, for the same reasons as Vicious Mockery. You are putting a bit of your true power into your voice, allowing you to, you know, frighten a creature, dealing psychic damage. It just all makes sense for this build. Also, Tasha's Hideous Laughter. Even the smallest glimpse of your true form is enough to drive some people insane. Some react with fear, some react with madness, and some react with uncontrollable laughter. Next up is Disguise Self. Elfira is not the only disguise you can take, although it is the form you have chosen to primarily inhabit. You can still shapeshift into others at will to disguise your evil deeds. And lastly, a Longstrider. You are fast. Too fast for them to get away. Of course, we're going to be taking a loot, but for the cases of this, we actually have Lihala's loot equipped, because, well, we got it from somewhere. Now, our starting stats are going to be a little bit weird, but please hear me out. So, this build is a bit mad for the concept I wanted to go with. So our 8 in Dexterity is going to be brought back up by the Gloves of Dexterity, making that 18. You can get these fairly early on, but obviously start with different specs. Maybe take out Strength and put it into Dex instead, and then until you get to the Githyanki Crash and get the Gloves of Dexterity, then you respec to that. But I wanted this character to be, again, a main player character, someone who is going to feel fun to play as in all aspects of play. So I'm using 2 pieces of stat boosting equipment to bring up our 2 soft stats here. Obviously, I've already said the Gloves of Dexterity for our Dex, to bring that up to 18, and the Warped Headband of Intellect to bring our Intelligence up to 17, although I would say that could be swapped out for something else. That's not necessary. It is just a personal choice, but I quite like having all of our stats be out of the negatives and into the positives, so that we can, you know, get through as many different dialogue options as possible. Also, we have our Wisdom at 10. It's just some extra points that we had that we threw in, just so we don't have any of our actual stats being the negative. Strength at 17. This is going to seem like a weird one, but the way we're going to be boosting this up is going to make sense, and I kind of feel like, in this case, even though this form is fragile and weak, you are strong. Much stronger than people would initially believe, and as such, even though you have to hide a good portion of that strength, there's no reason not to let it show from time to time when necessary. Constitution is at 14. It's a little bit lower than I would like, but I'd still think that 14 is good enough for most of the like the campaign if you're playing on balanced. In Tactician, you may want to swap some stats around to try and get this a bit higher if you're not into the whole strength thing. Obviously, shift things around there. But I think this is quite fine for a general balanced playthrough if maybe it's your first time doing the Dark Urge. Or if you're playing on Tactician, obviously work as a team. This is as much a Bard support character as it is a full frontal fighter. And obviously when we achieve our true form, this stat is going to be a little bit better off. So, but you'll see. Obviously, like I said, Intelligence is 8, but we're bumping that up to 17. Wisdom is at 10. And finally, Charisma is at 16. Obviously, this is our main spellcasting stat, so we want it at a decently high number, and second highest isn't so bad. But obviously, you can have this bumped up a little bit higher if you want to maybe grab Ethel's Boon and put this at a 17 to bump it straight to an 18. That is entirely up to you. Play around with these stats as you like. I'm just trying to, even though I'm making a bard, I'm trying to build a substandard bard, not something most people would make. And now we're on to skill proficiencies. Now, this is going to be a bit strange, but we definitely want perception, persuasion, and deception to be able to, you know, deceive and persuade our way through conversation. Because we are a Dark Urge, we already get intimidation proficiency, so that's all covered. But I've swapped out the performance skill proficiency for athletics, because with this build and us having high strength, high athletics is actually going to be very, very useful, and we'll get into why in a minute. And I feel like there is a kind of irony that the person who assimilates Alfira isn't actually that good at performing. Well, I say person. You're more of a thing. The thing. Let's keep moving on. So, with our bard levels being what they are, we have Jack of all trades, basically meaning that now we have a +1 bonus to everything, even if we're not proficient in it, meaning that also now, because all of our stats are going to be at least 10 or above, we're going to be able to succeed a lot more skill checks in this game, which is awesome. Also, Song of Rest, you and your allies can gain an extra short rest. Even despite being in this weaker form to keep up appearances, you are very durable and can go a long while without a rest. Next up, we've got our spells, and you can take whatever you like here, it really doesn't matter. Sleep would be great for lulling people to sleep before you just murder them. Fairy Fire, to be able to mark a target for death. Featherfall, to be able to traverse the map quite well. Heroism, to grant temporary HP and make yourself immune to frightened. Speak with animals, or animal friendship if you like, or in this case probably making animals fear you too much to move. You can take whatever you like here. I'm personally going to grab sleep. Next up at Bard level 3 we get to pick our subclass, and you can go with whatever you like here, but my personal preference for you is the College of Swords. You are a murderer, and your weapons should be wielded skillfully and with grace, but of course, because of that little demon in your head, you have forgotten how to fight properly up until now, but now you should regain a little bit of your murderous decorum. So, with this we are granted a fighting style, and it is whatever you prefer. Dueling if you feel like you want to have one hand free for choking people, and two-weapon fighting if you want to be able to rip them to shreds in record time. It's entirely up to you, choose whatever you like. I'm personally going to go with dueling because I quite like having that hand free. We're also going to be grabbing level 2 spells at this point, and we can grab Enhance Ability to let a little bit more of your true power loose without needing to break the facade. You gain advantage on ability checks with a chosen ability. It requires your concentration, but it lasts as long as you keep that concentration up. Definitely ability worth having. You're also going to be able to cast Burning Hands. This is the little trait you borrowed from the tiefling blood you were able to absorb when you did the deed. Next up at Bard level 4, we're going to be getting our first feat, and you may have seen this coming, but well, your strength is unbound and you need to make the best use of it. We are going Tavern Brawler. This is going to allow us to bump our strength up to 18, and you'll be able to effectively pick up enemies, throw them, and use them as weapons. Essentially, nobody is safe when they get close to you, and will easily meet a swift end in more ways than one. But of course, this will also allow you to grab various things from around the environment and furiously chuck it around, just like your true form would relish being able to do. But again, this form is limited, but this lets us unlock a little bit more power. You also gain another cantrip at this level. I would recommend grabbing Minor Illusion. It's always nice to see a friend right before you're stabbed in the back. Anyways, on to our spells. Let's see here. You have a few options, all of which are on theme. See Invisibility would allow it so that nobody can escape your vision. Silence would prevent them from being able to scream. Phantasmal Force will allow you to infect their mind even further. Crowd of Madness, the very sight of you drives people mad. Hold Person to keep them still so you can make your work a mastercraft. There are so many options here that would all work in your favour, but of course, even just showing a little bit of your true form is enough to drive your enemy mad, so it's just a natural occurrence, nothing you can really control. At Bard level 5, you're going to be grabbing your Font of Inspiration. At this point, you have grown quite adept at making your enemies or allies feel comfortable around you, and as such, they feel more inspired when you're around, meaning that your Bardic Inspiration is now a D8 rather than a D6, and you regain all of your Bardic Inspiration after a short rest in addition to a long rest. Next up, we now have level 3 spells, and of course, they will all fear you. At Bard level 6, you finally start to feel more comfortable and limber in this form, and are starting to regain even more of your true dexterity, meaning you can now make 2 attacks for 1 action in a single turn. You also gain the counter charm. You and those who stand beside you will have a harder time being charmed or frightened. I mean, nothing's more terrifying than you, so this only makes sense. And we also get to grab another spell at this level. Detect Thoughts would allow you to know if anybody is starting to grow suspicious of you. Speak with Dead will allow you to gain further insight into those you kill. But of course we're taking Hold Person here. Again, you want to make your kills as clean and beautiful as possible. At Bard level 7, we're going to be grabbing some level 4 spells, and of course we have a few options here for you. Freedom of movement is a nice option. It means that you get to finally tap into your true mobility, allowing yourself to be able to get to your victims no matter where they run. But of course, greater invisibility is also good. It allows you to basically take anybody by surprise, being able to stealthily kill somebody without anybody even knowing you were there. At Bard level 8, we're going to be getting our second feat, and now that your voice is finally trained to perfectly mimic this tiefling form, you can now bump your charisma up to 18 in order to be able to command those around you more effectively. You're also going to gain another spell, and I will take the aforementioned freedom of movement to allow you to regain your true mobility. At Bard level 9, you get some more spells, including level 5, and in addition to Hold Person, we can now obtain Hold Monster. Even other creatures that people would even consider as unsightly as yourself will cower in fear of you and be unable to move. At Bard level 10, we finally get to unlock some of our true arcane potential. You gain magical secrets, allowing you to grab some spells from other spell lists. And of course, there's a couple of options that are quite interesting. Banishing Smite. This will allow you to either use your weapons to their fullest potential for a brief moment using your true power, dealing an extra 5d10 force damage and potentially rending them asunder on such a molecular level that they are temporarily removed from this plane of existence. This is something only you can do. There's a few other options available to you. If you wanted to dip into your poisonous alchemic prowess, you can grab Contagion to be able to poison a target and deal additional effects to them. There's also additional protection like Fire Shield to be able to grant yourself a protective aura if you feel like your form is close to falling apart. Haste to unlock your true speed, becoming even faster and being able to attack more ferociously. Hunger of Hadar to pull them into the abyss you call home. Darkness to blind them so you can make the cleanest strike. There are so many options available to you, there is no particular correct thing to do, but I am personally going to go with Haste so that you can unlock your true power. As for your cantrips, you have another one. You can grab Blade Ward to keep this fragile form alive a bit longer. And as for your spells, well, you have plenty of options here. If you wanted to fiercely bind a demon or fae into your service, you can do so with planar binding. But I feel like you can instill so much fear into someone that they would be willing to switch sides immediately just to not face your wrath. Dominate Person works nicely here, but of course there are plenty of options. We're also going to be gaining some skill expertise, and you can unlock a little bit more of your true strength without needing to reveal your true nature here, using athletics and putting expertise into athletics and pumping it up to a nice +10. You can also increase your ability to create poisons with medicine, but I feel like intimidation makes more sense. Your true form is so intimidating that those around you will listen, even if you just stare at them. At level 11, you finally gain the ability to use some of your highest levels of true power. We have Eye Bite. By staring at your foe in a certain way and letting them see the glint in your eyes that reveals what you truly are, only to them, you are able to inflict one of 3 status conditions. It is sleep, paralysis, or frightened, basically allowing you to do some various different status effects much more easily. This is one of the better control options you will have, and your enemies will truly fear you all over the world. And finally, at level 12, we are able to obtain one more final feat, and you have two options. You can either decide to focus on your deception, bumping your charisma up to 20 to be able to get the most out of your spells and wiles. However, if you feel like this form is still too fragile for what you intend to do, then you may increase your constitution in order to gain more health, which will be what I personally choose. Even though your true form will add additional sturdiness and, well, power, it doesn't hurt to have this disguise be a little bit more ready for combat. And finally, one final spell to add to your arsenal. It is up to you what you choose to take here, as most of your power is now on full display. Anything else is a bonus. So I will personally be taking Feign Death. On the off chance you feel as though your form is about to expire and the truth will be revealed, feign your death for now, allowing your enemies to give up and move away, thinking they have won, to then only come back to strike them down later. But of course, there are plenty more options available to you. And with that, we are done. But we must move away from prying eyes in order to show off our true form. Let's get into our equipment. Now, obviously, as stated before, your job with assimilating this form was less than ideal, so unfortunately you weren't able to obtain her outfit to perfectly complete the disguise, but as most adventurers would do when first starting out, they would very quickly replace their meager clothing with whatever good armor they can find, and we have a few options. As already explained, we have the Warped Headband of Intellect, setting your intelligence score to 17, and the Gloves of Dexterity to set your dexterity to 18 and provide a bonus to attack and damage. Overall, able to bring out your true power in various different ways, with higher dex and higher intelligence. Next up is the Deathstalker Mantle. You obtain this from your butler, as you do, and he was quite willing to give you this before you slaughtered him. It allows you to turn invisible after making your kill, meaning you can get away without anyone knowing it was you. Next up, we have the Padded Armor Plus 2, a decent piece of light armor that suits this form well. The color scheme is quite lovely, what mixes nicely with blood. But of course, if you feel like medium armor is more your fancy, the 1T scale mail, which can also be obtained around a similar time frame, will allow you to gain even more defensive power, keeping this form together. But it's entirely up to you. We also have the Evasive Shoes, allowing for you to have a little bit more defense, but these can also be swapped out for the Dark Justicia Boots, allowing you to move between shadows with ease using shadow teleportation, allowing you to teleport to obscured areas once per short rest. Finally, your keepsake, the Amulet of Ball. On a hit, inflict bleeding upon the targets that have their maximum hit points. Always make them bleed so that they're less effective in combat. The Band of the Mystic Scoundrel. Your bardic powers have grown substantially, and now, after striking an enemy with a weapon attack, you can cast illusion or enchantment spells as a bonus action, allowing you to keep up the assault on their minds as well as their bodies. And the Killer's Sweetheart, a ring given to you a long time ago by someone who once was dear to you before you murdered them. When you kill a creature, your next attack roll will be a critical hit. This effect refreshes after every long rest. You can always guarantee that when you are around, at least 1 or 2 people will die. The Knife of the Undermountain King, one of the better daggers you have found, as it is big enough to wield properly as a blade as well as a murder utensil. The wielder scores a critical hit when rolling a 19. When they roll 2 damage or less, re-roll the dice and take the highest result. You also have advantage on attack rolls against lightly or heavily obscured targets. This is a +2 weapon and fits the bill rather nicely. We also have here the Dark Fire Short Bow, granting you resistance to fire and cold damage, as well as the ability to cast haste once per long rest without expending a spell slot. There also are a few more options for weapons if you're so inclined. The Assassin's Short Sword will give you advantage on stealth checks to make sure that no one ever sees you coming, and the Fowler Alluve will allow you to play into the deceptive nature of pretending to be a bard a lot better, with a song that can crush your enemies. You may have noticed that this form has more power than you anticipated. Thanks to the help of the Potion of Everlasting Vigor, this fragile form's strength has been increased by 2 permanently, allowing you to unleash almost all of your full strength, while still not needing to transform. However, the time will arise when you will finally be able to indulge yourself truly. And as such, you will be able to assume your true form. You feel much more comfortable this way. This is natural. This is what you are. That feeble disguise cannot contain this power for long enough, and sometimes you need to let loose. You have a few options in your true form. Your Slay attack allows you to deal a large amount of slashing damage, and also inflicting a status condition of Contagion Poisoned, Stage 1. With the affected entities having disadvantage on attack rolls and checks. In addition, you have a multi-attack. You can rend your foes with multiple attacks at once, each doing slashing damage, and if the target is bleeding, you deal an additional 8 slashing damage per hit, and if the target is dazed, the attack will be a critical hit. The sumptuous bloodbath. Slash open a foe's vital arteries. They start bleeding, and the ensuing gush continuously heals your wounds. You inflict bleeding and revitalizing gore, allowing you to heal yourself. Relentless lunge. You can leap at an enemy and possibly knock them prone by dealing damage by landing on them. And finally, let the slaughter begin. Brand nearby creatures with a sinister mark so that their deaths make you harder to kill. Marked targets are dazed, and when they die, you gain a +1 bonus to your armor class. Kill, rend, rip, and tear until there is nothing left, and you are sated, all in the name of Ball. But even so, even with all of this, there is even more power for you to obtain. You may have been inflicted with this parasite, but that does not mean it cannot be useful to you. While some abilities still remain a mystery to you in the furthest reaches of your mind, there is still opportunity to make this work with what we have. Favorable beginnings. Your first attack roll or ability check you make against any target has a bonus equal to your proficiency bonus. This will allow you to be even more deceptive and always bring others round to your side. Luck of the Far Realms. Once per long rest, you can change a successful attack roll against a foe into a critical hit. This will allow you to make sure that your target that you've had in your sights for oh so long, when the time is right, they will die. Force Tunnel. Charge forward, pushing all objects and creatures in your path 4 meters away from you. Charge through them, and then to get to your intended target. Displace. Creatures suffering falling damage because of your actions take an additional 1 to 8 psychic damage. Since your true power will allow you to throw your foes in near and far, this ability will come up way more than you would expect. Concentrated Blast. You must be concentrating on another spell to cast this. It deals 3d6 psychic damage, and if the target was also concentrating, you gain healing. So with this, because so many of your bardic abilities are concentration based, you will be able to use this quite a lot. Those are the abilities that would benefit you most to focus on. Of course, there are other options, such as Psionic Backlash, Culva Weak, which you will grab. Repulsor, to unleash your fury and push enemies back. There is many different things you could do here. This parasite will definitely empower you and work in your favor, but do not become too indulgent, or you may find yourself serving the wrong god. And that is the build. I am so sorry if that was hard to get through, but for Halloween I wanted to do something a little bit different. This video was what inspired the Halloween video concept, this whole spooky month type deal, and I really hope you guys enjoy it and didn't just cringe at my weird haunted ASMR. But it's always nice to try something a little bit different, get kind of out of the usual routine. But yeah, obviously, now we can get into the housekeeping stuff while the combat footage plays up in front of you now. So this build was something that kind of rattled around in my head for a little while. I know there have been some people, I think I've seen some Reddit posts about it, where people have been like, oh yeah, you could totally play as like an Alfira clone as the Dark Urge. But I was like, okay, but how would you actually do that? And I feel like, yes, playing a straight bard to kind of make you feel like you're playing an origin character does work, and I feel like being able and getting this much power, such as the blade flourishes, the psychic spells, and obviously the different mind flayer and even the slayer form abilities, just to be able to do a bunch of different stuff and really get that haunting vibe. But of course, it's all still on theme enough of being a bard that you can maintain this disguise. And the whole way you could play this type of character is, like I said, basically, you know, do everything and keep up appearances like being a little goody two-shoes until the opportunity comes for you to sneak away and do something evil, like the actual Dark Urge objectives that Scalerida's Fel will give you. I didn't get into too much stuff like beyond kind of Act 2, because Act 2 is the earliest you can get the Slayer form, and that was kind of all the kit I wanted. But I did have to play through a significant portion of this game to be able to kind of get all this ready, but I think it was absolutely worth it because I feel like this concept is really fun. And for those of you who wanted a full, like, Dark Urge build, I hope this satisfies, well, the urge. Basically, the playstyle of this build would be you use your regular bardic abilities as normal, but because of the Tavern Brawler feat and your high strength, you're also going to be able to do some interesting things, basically being able to Hulk out, throw things around, and use improvised weaponry and throwing weapons to really powerful effectiveness. But also, obviously, you can use ranged weapons. Since we are playing a swords bard, the whole dual crossbow strategy would work really well if you don't care about the Darkfire shortbow. But I kind of wanted to use that just because I did, because I wanted those extra resistances to make us feel more powerful. But obviously, there's so many different routes you could go down with this. There's so many different things you can do. And obviously, if you wanted to, a swords bard, maybe rogue mix could also work really well. If you went like assassin rogue, that could be really fun. But yeah, no, there's a ton of different things you could do with this build. Honestly, experiment with it, kind of see what multi-classing options work for you. But I just wanted to play a straight bard, kind of to be on theme, like as if you were playing Astarion as a straight rogue, or Shadowheart as a straight cleric, or Lae'zel as a straight fighter, or Karlach as a barbarian, yada yada yada, you know the rest. So I kind of wanted to build this as a single class build, but also showing off how cool and powerful and different a single class can be, because you don't need multi-classing to make a creative build. You can come up with creative character concepts just like this. But there is one more thing we will get into, actually. If you will give me a quick second to cut to the next bit of footage, we can get that underway. And so, of course, with this being a build that is specifically designed to replicate a certain character in-game, I figured I might as well show at the very end here how to do it. There is a few guides out there for this already that I kind of used to help me make this kind of look, but I will just include it here at the end of this video, so you've got a one-stop shop for this build and how to actually get the look. So for starters, you're going to want to go with Head 6. This is Alfira's face, and it's also the default face for the Mephistopheles Tiefling race. In fact, if you just make a Mephistopheles Tiefling without even really trying, you've basically got Alfira. It's kind of strange that they basically just used the basic model for such an important character, but hey-ho. So Head 6, with the default skin tone being Azure Tone 1. I believe for Mephistopheles it technically is Storm Tone, so you have to swap it, but it is kind of like the first option. Also, I went with Voice 4.
Where to next? What was that?
It sounded the closest to Alfira to me personally, but it sounds just off enough that you might be able to detect that they are an imposter, if, you know, say you were a character in the world, but most people wouldn't even know the difference. No scarring, of course, unless you wanted to add some for dramatic effect, like maybe an eye scar to show how evil you've become could be really fun as you go through the campaign, but I feel like just keeping it as close to the original as possible also works. As such, there is also no tattoos or body art. The eyes are the demonic yellow. This is the same as that Alfira actually has. The makeup is makeup 5, coloured black, and the lip tint is black 2. Yep, with 30 intensity there and 80% intensity there. Again, pretty much just the default. Again, this is very on... basically, like I said, Alfira is just kind of the default tiefling look. The hair is... scroll down. It is the Neverwinter scarf with a black-red colouring, and you also have a 16 in highlight intensity, but for some reason... yeah, and it's the pink for highlight intensity at 16. That kind of gives that little bit of tinge to her hair that she has in-game. No greying at all. No facial hair, obviously, and the horns are just the ruin curve horns with the Ashwan horn colour, the default, and grey worn tips to get that full Alfira look. As for the armour, this particular armour is the padded armour 2 plus 2. This is dyed with the just straight purple dye, with the gloves and boots being done in the muddy red dye. Same with the anti-scale mail I showed off earlier. That is also just dyed, I believe, purple. Let's just double check. Yes, this is just a regular purple dye. Nothing too crazy here. If you wanted to kind of sub in, if you got to Act 3 and you want to sub in the Amulet of Ball for the Amulet of Greater Health, the Constitution one, that way you could play around more with your stats, you could do that, but that's entirely up to you. I understand a lot of people don't like me recommending that, because technically you have to go to the House of Hope to get it, but you can get it without having to do any of the House of Hope related like things, such as beating Superboss, or any of the subquests or anything like that. But regardless, that is the build. Again, very, very experimental video, but I wanted to do something special for Halloween. Again, hopefully it wasn't too cringy. I really, really do apologize. But yeah, I actually have this pre-recorded. This is weird for me, because I usually record, edit, and upload on the same day, but this is being recorded on the 22nd of October. So hopefully nothing has changed by the time I upload this build in about a week and a half. But yeah, I really, really hope you guys enjoyed this one. This one was super fun to theorycraft and make, and I really like the way I went for this build. And again, I think it does work as a cool, down-to-earth, Dark Urge build that you can use throughout your campaign. And again, it works either as an evil playthrough or a good playthrough. Say you went the evil route and you did all the sneaky stuff and became the Chosen of Ball, like I said. Or you could actually maybe have your time with the party kind of turn you around, and suddenly you like start to grow humanity, and you kind of become actually like Alfira herself, rejecting Ball at the end. Something like that. Feel free to play around with this concept, but seriously, this is a super fun build. Take it wherever you like it. Super fun concept. Oh, it's one of my favorite builds I've ever made, so I really, really hope you guys enjoy it. Alright, that is going to do it for me. I hope to see you all again soon. Not exactly sure what I'm going to do with the channel going forward as far as the weekend uploads go. I might keep the same schedule of just uploading once on the weekends, or I might scale it back a bit and just upload on weekdays. I'll see how I feel about it. But anyways, that is going to be it from me. I hope to see you all next time.